Every day, people reveal far more than they realize. A job candidate walks into an interview. Before they answer a single question, the interviewer has already formed an impression. Two strangers meet for the first time. Within seconds, both have unconsciously decided whether they trust each other. A detective watches a suspect enter a room. Long before the interrogation begins, subtle behaviors are already telling a story. The strange part? Most of these signals happen without conscious awareness. Tiny facial expressions, shifts in posture, changes in eye contact, the position of someone's feet, the speed of their movements. These signals often communicate confidence, anxiety, attraction, discomfort, dominance, submission, and sometimes even deception. But can people really be read like an open book? Or is that one of the biggest myths in psychology? Experts who study human behavior have spent decades trying to answer that question. What they discovered is both fascinating and surprisingly unsettling. Because the truth is not that people can read minds. It's that human beings constantly leave clues behind, and most of us never notice them. And some of the most important conversations in your life may have already happened before anyone said a single word. If you're fascinated by psychology, human behavior, and the hidden forces that influence our everyday lives, make sure to subscribe and let us know in the comments where you're watching from. But before we uncover the hidden signals experts look for, we need to understand why most people get this topic completely wrong. Ask someone how to tell if another person is lying, and you'll often hear the same answers. They avoid eye contact. They fidget. They look nervous. Movies, television shows, and popular culture have reinforced these ideas for decades. The image is familiar. A guilty person sweats nervously. An innocent person looks calm and confident. A liar can't look you in the eye. But psychologists eventually discovered something surprising. Many of these beliefs simply aren't reliable. In fact, some skilled liars maintain strong eye contact specifically because they know people expect liars to avoid it. Meanwhile, innocent people often appear nervous when they're being questioned because the situation itself is stressful. Imagine being accused of something you didn't do. Your heart rate increases. Your hands become sweaty. Your voice changes. To an untrained observer, those behaviors may look suspicious, yet they're completely normal. This misunderstanding has caused problems everywhere, from job interviews to courtrooms. For years, researchers found that even professionals were often only slightly better than chance when trying to detect deception based on stereotypes alone. The human mind loves shortcuts. We want simple rules. One behavior equals one meaning. One gesture equals one emotion. But human behavior is rarely that simple. And that realization would lead psychologists toward a much deeper understanding of how people communicate without words. What they discovered next would change everything. In the 1960s, psychologists began exploring a question that seemed almost impossible. How much communication happens without language? One of the most influential researchers was psychologist and professor Paul Ekman. Ekman became fascinated by facial expressions and whether emotions could be recognized across different cultures. His research eventually led him to remote communities that had little exposure to modern media. What he found was extraordinary. People from vastly different cultures could identify many of the same emotional expressions: happiness, fear, anger, sadness, disgust, surprise. This suggested that certain emotional signals might be deeply rooted in human biology. But researchers would later discover something even more surprising. Some expressions appear for only fractions of a second. They're often called micro-expressions, tiny flashes of emotion that can occur before someone consciously controls their face. A brief look of fear, a split-second expression of anger, a momentary sign of contempt. Most people miss them entirely. Experts trained to observe them may notice clues that others overlook. However, this wasn't the most shocking part. Psychologists soon realized that no single behavior could reliably reveal what a person was thinking. Instead, experts focused on patterns. Clusters of behaviors, changes from someone's normal baseline, context, environment, timing. The next discovery would challenge everything experts believed about reading people, because the most important clues weren't always on the face. Sometimes they were hidden in plain sight. Imagine walking into a room filled with strangers. Without speaking, your brain immediately begins collecting information. Who seems confident? Who appears nervous? Who holds authority? Who doesn't belong? You may not realize it, but your mind is constantly analyzing behavior. Experts do something similar, but with far greater precision. One of the first things they look for is congruence. Do a person's words match their behavior? Suppose someone says they're excited about an opportunity, but their shoulders are slumped. Their voice lacks energy. Their facial expression remains flat. Something feels off. It doesn't necessarily mean they're lying, but it suggests their internal state may not match their words. Another powerful signal is body orientation. Here's something fascinating. People often point their feet toward what interests them, or away from what they want to leave. Have you ever been in a conversation where someone seemed engaged, yet their feet were already facing the exit? Behavioral experts sometimes notice these subtle cues long before others do. Then there's personal space. Human beings maintain invisible boundaries. When those boundaries change, something important may be happening. Attraction, trust, fear, dominance, discomfort. Each can influence how close people choose to stand. Voice also reveals more than most people realize. Changes in pace, volume, pitch, pauses, hesitations. These shifts often provide valuable information about emotional states. And then there's perhaps the most overlooked signal of all: behavioral consistency. Experts don't focus on isolated moments. They watch for changes, a sudden shift in posture, a change in speaking style, an unexpected reaction, because people reveal themselves most clearly when their behavior suddenly changes. Have you ever noticed someone become unusually quiet after a certain topic was mentioned? What do you think that means? Let us know in the comments below. But while these signals can reveal useful information, they can also be exploited. And that's where things become far more dangerous. The ability to read people can be used for good, but it can also be used for manipulation. History is filled with individuals who understood human psychology exceptionally well. Cult leaders, con artists, fraudsters, predatory salespeople, manipulative partners. Many of them succeed because they recognize emotional vulnerabilities before their targets do. Consider the classic scam artist. Contrary to popular belief, successful scammers don't usually begin by talking. They observe. They watch. They gather information. Who appears lonely? Who seems eager to impress? Who craves approval? Who struggles to say no? Every person reveals clues, and skilled manipulators know how to use them. One particularly powerful technique is called mirroring. This involves subtly matching another person's posture, tone, speech patterns, or gestures. Research suggests that people often feel more comfortable around those who seem similar to them. Used ethically, mirroring can help build rapport. Used unethically, it can create false trust. And that's when everything changes. Because once trust is established, people become more vulnerable to influence. The same psychological mechanisms that help friendships form can also be exploited by manipulators. Cult recruiters have historically used similar principles. They identify emotional needs, offer belonging, create connection, provide certainty. Slowly, the target becomes psychologically invested. Would you have recognized the warning signs? Many intelligent people don't, because manipulation rarely looks like manipulation at the beginning. It often looks like understanding, and that's exactly what makes it dangerous. But perhaps the most revealing examples come from real-world investigations. In countless criminal investigations, behavioral analysis has helped uncover important clues. However, contrary to Hollywood portrayals, investigators rarely solve cases because someone blinked too much or looked away. Instead, they examine patterns, inconsistencies, unexpected emotional responses, changes over time. The same principle applies in business. Imagine two executives negotiating a major deal. One side appears calm, confident, relaxed. The other side grows increasingly impatient. Interruptions become more frequent. Posture becomes rigid. Tone becomes sharper. Neither side has explicitly stated how they feel, yet the negotiation dynamics are already visible. Relationships provide another fascinating example. Researchers studying long-term couples found that certain behaviors can predict relationship outcomes with surprising accuracy. One of the strongest signals wasn't anger, it was contempt. Subtle expressions of superiority, disrespect, or dismissal. Tiny moments that many people overlook. Yet these moments often reveal deeper emotional patterns beneath the surface. Then there are famous social psychology experiments. Experiments that demonstrated how power, authority, and group influence can dramatically alter behavior. People often imagine that they are immune to social pressure, but history repeatedly shows otherwise. Human beings are profoundly influenced by those around them, sometimes without realizing it. Have you ever looked back on a decision and wondered whether it was truly your choice? Or whether social influence played a larger role than you realized? The answer may be more complicated than most people think. And that leads us to the most important lesson of all. After learning all of this, many people become tempted to turn every conversation into an investigation. But that's not what experts do. The goal isn't to judge people. The goal is to understand them more accurately. The most skilled observers avoid making quick conclusions. They remain curious. They look for patterns. They consider context. They recognize uncertainty. If someone appears nervous, ask why. If someone's behavior changes, pay attention. If words and actions don't align, stay curious rather than immediately assuming deception. Perhaps the most valuable skill is learning to notice without rushing to interpret, because human beings are incredibly complex. A single gesture rarely tells the whole story. A single expression rarely reveals the truth. But patterns often do. The more aware you become of human behavior, the better you can understand relationships, navigate social situations, and protect yourself from manipulation. You'll notice who genuinely listens, who seeks connection, who craves control, who earns trust. And perhaps most importantly, you'll become more aware of your own behavior, because the signals we're discussing don't just reveal others, they reveal us. Every day, in every interaction, whether we realize it or not. And once you start noticing these hidden patterns, it's very difficult to stop seeing them, which raises an interesting question. What signals are you sending right now without even knowing it? Long after the conversation ends, the decision is made, or the moment passes, the psychology behind it remains. Invisible, powerful, often unnoticed. Yet these hidden forces shape relationships, careers, reputations, societies, and sometimes even the course of history itself. Every glance, every gesture, every choice, every interaction. Each one tells a story about who we are, what we believe, and the unseen forces influencing our behavior. And perhaps the most remarkable part is that these forces affect all of us, every single day. Because behind every action lies a hidden motive. Behind every decision lies a psychological process. And behind every human story lies a deeper truth waiting to be understood. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this episode, please like the video, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments below. What psychological behavior do you find most fascinating, and what topic in human behavior would you like us to explore next? And until next time, keep questioning what lies beneath the surface of human behavior.